What a pretty day it is today.
It's beautiful.
Weather's been nice.
It is. What do you think the temperature is?
I don't know, 72, 3 maybe. Pretty
close.
nice. Like a fella not want to do anything.
It's perfect. I just got thinking about something.
Yeah.
When is that event you're supposed to go to?
Like Pro Touring truck shootout event?
Yeah, the Pro Touring truck shootout and Beach Bend Raceway.
Yeah, I think it's April 12th maybe.
Huh. Today's March 26th. You know, April is literally next week.
It leaves me about 2 weeks to get the truck running, huh?
Yeah, the truck's not running. It don't drive.
Or stop. Or cool.
Huh.
Well, folks, I've done it again, unfortunately. I'm really good at waiting until 2 weeks before an event to start really working on a rig, and that's what I have done now. We're kind of, 2 weeks away from having to drive this truck that hasn't even run 6 hours to Bowling Green, Kentucky for an event. And as you can see, we have quite the list here of things to do. So to kind of give you a quick rundown, I've got the Aces harness mocked up. I've got to finish up some wiring with the truck harness. I got to wire in the reverse lights, wire up the speedometer. I'm going to make the factory temperature gauge and the factory oil pressure switch work. I got to run some wires for that. And then we got to route that Aces harness, mount the ECU there. And then that will be a majority of the wiring. The rest of it's just kind of plugging stuff in, and the Aces stuff should run. Then I got to do a cooling system. As you know, I'm using that 09 Challenger radiator. I have an 09 Challenger fan assembly coming. I got to go get that here in a little while. And then I've got to do radiator hoses. The Challenger radiator does not have a filler. I've got to do an inline filler, so I've got a conglomerate of parts there. But I could probably knock out the radiator hoses today. In the time that the truck has been sitting in this bay, it had brakes when it got here. Now it don't have brakes. Rear wheel cylinder blew out, so we got to get the rear wheel cylinder leak taken care of. Then after we get all the wiring done, I got to pull it all back out of the truck and loom everything up, loom the whole truck harness up. And so that's going to be, a good day's worth there. Take it home and loom all that up. After all the wiring's done, after the cooling system's done, then I still have to mount my drive-by-wire pedal. I got to drain and fill the NV4500 5-speed. We've got to make a new fuel return line. I thought my last one would work. I misrouted it. I went to go prime the fuel system. Fuel just sprayed out everywhere. So we're actually going to be doing a 6 AN fuel return line now. I'm waiting on a part to come in for that. And then once the fuel system's complete, once the wiring's complete, once the truck will stop, then we can work on getting the Aces stuff on and making it run. I've still got to hook up power steering. I've still got to make the alternator charge. I've still got a lot of stuff to do and very little time to do it. So you see the list. We got to get stuff knocked out. Okay, status update. Radiator mounted. 1998 Chevrolet upper radiator mounts. They work. Radiator hoses complete. Brakes waiting on parts. Jesse, kinked heater core line.
We have a kinked heater core line. It got bent in. It's kinked together. I'm going to try something. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to stick a 3/8 extension in it and throw the old ugga dugga to it and see if we can't straighten the kink out. Let's see what happens. By golly, it knocked part of it out.
Did it really knock the kink out of it?
Yes, it did. It didn't get it all out, but it's better than it was.
There we go.
I call that a win, and I got a cramp. Oh, my God.
You all right, buddy?
Oh.
Leg cramp?
Oh, my leg cramped up. I'm getting old.
Getting her straightened back out. I'll probably end up replacing the heater core, and the truck's going to have AC, so I'm going to be doing something with the AC box. But on the time crunch we're in, we just got to make something happen. Back to it. Works. So, last thing you guys saw, Jesse unkinked the heater core line over there. Since then, we've had our head down, waiting on parts and getting work done. We have got the brakes done on one side, just now got the parts for the other side. I've got my radiator fan assembly mounted up. This is a big single fan assembly off of a 2014 Dodge Charger. It mounts right up to this 09 Challenger radiator, and it is a 2-speed fan due to this little resistor piece right here. The ACES system that I'm using has a fan 1 and fan 2 controller. I'll be utilizing fan 1 for low speed, fan 2 for high speed. It'll be temperature based, and when I turn the AC on, I'll probably have it turn the high speed fan on as well. Another thing that we've done since you last saw is I've got the heater core hoses over here. Got the heater hoses taken care of. Now, I don't have clamps currently, and I will say that I found the inspiration for most of this on a Dodge Truck HEMI swap group, but I've got a newer style heater control valve. We have a 90 that comes off and down. It goes over to our control valve and then back over, 90s back up, and utilizes the two HEMI pipes here, not cutting them. Now, it probably would be a little better to cut them, but I made it work, and everything clears with the intake on. Speaking of the intake, I now no longer have that on because I pretty well got the ACES stuff kind of figured out where I want everything to route. And so I'm ready to pull all that off and finish up the actual truck wiring, like wiring the fans up there. And then I've got to wire the temperature sensor. I'm going to be adding a stock 93 318 temperature sensor to the HEMI to make the gauge work. I'm going to be doing the same with the oil pressure sensor. And I really, really, really want the factory speedometer to work. This being a 93, it had an electronic speedometer. So from my understanding, the way it worked is that the speed sensor on the transmission, it took an 8-volt input from the PCM, and then the output was going straight to the speedometer itself. Now, obviously, I'm not running a factory PCM, and the ACES doesn't have an 8-volt output, and so I needed some way to feed that sensor an 8-volt input. And with the help of my buddy Jesse, we come up with this. It's called a buck converter. So this little adjustable converter here is essentially you put power and ground to it, and on any system, 12 volt, 24 volt, 6 volt, whatever it may be, there's a little dial back here that you can turn down or up. And in our case, we're going to be regulating our 12 volt system down to 8 volts and feeding this orange speedometer wire with these 8 volts to maybe make the speedometer work. I'm really not 100% sure if that's going to work like I think it will, but I don't see why it wouldn't. But I guess we'll find out when this thing gets driving down the road. Well, in the meantime, I'm going to try to finish up some of this wiring, and you don't want to watch me struggle, so I'm going to let you watch Jesse put the brakes back together. Let's get into that. Okay, so last night, Jesse got the brakes finished up. We got them bled. We have brakes again. great. I did a lot of the wiring. I got the factory gauge temperature sensor and the factory gauge oil pressure sensor wired, as well as a couple other things. I'll show you that here in a second. You may notice scenery change. The truck is at an angle now, and there's a table in front of me, and I'm wearing an Aces shirt. It's because we're right in the middle of the next video you're going to be seeing, which is installing all this Aces EFI on this HEMI. But I wanted to touch back here because there's still quite a few things that's not necessarily Aces related, but it is HEMI swap related that I want everybody to know. So what we're doing right now is I'm getting the intake ready to go on the truck for, like, hopefully the final time. And to do that, there's a couple of things that I needed to button up, like the vacuum reference for our brake booster and for our AC controls. We got these vacuum ports here that's coming off the bottom of this intake, and we'll just elbow right into our brake booster. Won't be no big deal. We'll plug the other one we're not using. I have this little conglomerate of rigs here that'll go to our AC controls. I do want to run a catch can, but we're running out of time here. We're just, for the trip, more than likely, it'll just be venting the atmosphere. We'll go back in the future, add some sort of catch can. We may do a PCV, I don't know. But for now, we're just going to be venting the atmosphere. Hopefully it'll be okay. So we got a couple of parts that come in. I have my drive-by-wire pedal mount. I think it's from Holley. We'll talk about that later. But it'll allow me to bolt this stock. This is out of a 2011 Jeep. It'll allow me to bolt this right into this truck. It's already like got all the angles and everything good. So that's a pretty nice piece to have. And then I'm still waiting on my voltage regulator set up to control this late model Gen 3 HEMI alternator. And then I'm also waiting on some parts from Sublime Parts to finish up my power steering stuff. So funny enough, actually, a buddy that watches the channel, his name's also Justin. While I was showing my power steering stuff in the last video, he noticed I was missing the flow restrictor. I have the pressure reducer, but I'm missing the flow restrictor that Sublime Parts also offers for these pumps for this whole swap to go in this truck. So I'm waiting on that to come in, as well as a couple of other things. But for now, I think we're ready to finish up the vacuum side of this intake, mount this intake on for the final time. Then we'll probably move on around to the inside. We'll mount our pedal up. There's still got to loom all the wiring up, but I'll take you around real quick and show you the wiring that I have done for the moment, and that should get you caught up. Okay, so looking in at my wiring here, I added a factory 1993 Dodge Ram temperature sensor right here on this front port of the water pump, and I have it ran up and around and wired into the factory harness over here. Here is the factory oil pressure sensor stuff. The connector is down there somewhere. I'm going to tap into another oil port down there, run it up the same way. I've still got to pull all that harness out and loom it, but I believe the Aces harness is kind of in there where it's going to be sitting. I'm going to tuck the ECU somewhere in there. I've got to extend these wires. I'll probably, whatever I extend, I'll tie it in with the body harness. But so far, I'm pretty happy with how everything's coming along. We're still about 2 weeks out. We're doing good progress. Okay, so we got the intake manifold on for what I believe is the last time. We got some wires extended around, but we don't quite have that hooked up yet. We still got to add our radiator and our fan assembly back. But for now, we're going to move inside here and get our drive-by-wire pedal bolted up. So this is the bracket that I got from Holley. There it is, 145-310 drive-by-wire pedal bracket, and you could see that the factory pedal bolts up on 2 studs with 2 nuts. This is going to follow that same pattern, and then from what I can tell, this stock pedal should work just the same. I do notice that the holes aren't 100% right, but maybe I could bolt that one up and self-tap that one up there, because the other bottom mount hole is way off the bracket down there. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but I think it's going to put the pedal pretty close to the same spot. So let me get that bolted in. Okay, this is what I've come up with. I put a little self-tapper in there, not gonna lie to you. There was a bolt hole up here. We put that in there. This is kind of about how they compare. It's pretty close. This one's just a touch lower than this one, but I think it'll be pretty comparable. So let's Let's get this bolted in there. Yeah, this truck's an absolute mess. I haven't even had a chance to look at the inside of it. But let's get this up in place. Please go up there. I don't need any more trouble. What are you hitting? Oh. Okay, let's see. Come on, brother. Okay, so if I bolted the bracket straight up, the pedal would hang so low that at like 3/4 throttle, it would just hit the floor. And I don't even have carpet in here yet. So I think the fix to it was, I tried spacing out, putting spacers behind where it mounts there to kind of buck it out a little bit. But I think the fix to it really is going to be bending that bracket back. Because you could see that the studs that it mounts on, they're not flush with the firewall. They're on those two little step outs there. So there's some room for this to lean back. And I just mocked this up and it got the angle pretty close to the brake pedal. So that's what we're looking like right now. But let me get it all put in and we'll see what it looks like then. That is much better. Much, much better. The pedal's way up like you would need it to be. You can go full throttle and not touch the floor. So I've got room. That's better. That bracket definitely needed to be bent. So that'll work. So now, fuel line. So what I had going on before was this went into the bottom of my regulator as the return. High pressure fuel line went into this little 5/16 quick connect that there's a steel braided line somewhere that also from the factory was a quick connect. Right here, this is that steel braided 5/16 quick connect from the factory that I thought was the return line. Turns out that was actually the feed line, because when it returned the fuel to that line, it just sprayed out. Those right there, it just sprayed out. So that's the factory feed line. Had that mixed up. But now I've learned that this is indeed the factory 5/16 return line. And I got this slick little 5/16 to 6AN adapter. We'll slide that right over. And then I'll take the other little piece, slide it on, tighten it in, and that'll be converted to 6AN. Then we'll just run a fresh 6AN line up to the bottom of our fuel pressure regulator. Bam, there is our fresh fuel return line, all done up in 6AN. I already got it blown out. Let's get her stuck in place. And bam, just like that. We got our new fuel return line on and our feed line up there. Got them routed the best we can. I consider that fuel system complete. Okay, so let's see. We got the oil pressure sensor taken care of. Engine coolant temperature gauge taken care of. The gas pedal's mounted. I don't think I had the fuel line on here. Maybe not. So I gotta do the wiper motor, bolt the cowl down. I got the vacuum. Vacuum line's done. Voltage regulator. Clutch line, I gotta wrap that in some rubber. Gotta mount the steering reservoir. Then we're gonna have to add we'll add the flow reducer. I think it's supposed to be in Wednesday. However, I believe that's all we're going to do in this video. I was going to try to compact everything into one video, but it would just be way too long. And I know my attention span is not that long. So next video, we're going to be working on the voltage regulator. We'll be talking about that. We're going to add our flow reducer from Sublime Technologies. We'll be finishing up a little bit of wiring. We'll add our radiator back in place and hopefully fill off the cooling system. And we've got a couple of things to do and not a lot of time to do it. We still got to get exhaust. There's a ton of stuff this truck still needs with very little time to do it all. But that's going to do it for this video. Appreciate everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.